And welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. Very happy to welcome Christina Hagan, former Representative Christina Hagan, who is now officially running for Congress for the Ohio 13th District. Good morning.
Good morning, Susie. Thanks for having me today.
I hope you had a little break there as you gave birth to twins, although who would call that a break? And you're ready to dive right in again. Where are you? Where are you in your head right now, Christina?
Yeah, we are super excited about the path ahead to a victory in November. We are very fortunate in our household to have three beautiful children. So in the midst of this COVID-19 kind of chaos and tragedy, as a work-from-home mom, I think all work-from-home parents probably can relate really well to where we are. But we're doing everything that we can to adapt, just like everyone else out there. And we're finding new ways to connect with people via social media and just having a different presence where we can't physically be in a group full of enthusiastic supporters right now. So we're adapting and still working very hard toward that path to victory in November.
Take us into your home, if you will, as much as you're willing to share, because a lot of people had, everyone's had their own unique experience of what quarantine looks like. But to quarantine with baby twins and a preschooler and be running for Congress, that had to be amazing.
Absolutely. Well, it's a blessing and a curse in many ways, for everyone to be in the state that we are from a health pandemic perspective. It's certainly heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I always look at these obstacles as ways God is blessing us. Maybe we don't always feel it in the immediate present, but we always know he's working. And so I think the gift of undivided time with my children, and I say undivided physically, to get to be present with them the entire day, all day, every day. The only time this mama is getting a break out of the house is for a grocery store visit on either Saturday or Sunday, whichever works with mine and my husband's schedule. But we are so used to balancing kind of a life of organized chaos that this is no big shock to our personal lives because, of course, three little kids under a household and working for a nonprofit Christian ministry. I've been blessed to do that from home remotely, but that was, always a fun juggle. Now we've added the race on top of that. So very busy days every day, without question. I'm often changing diapers while on conference calls. Yesterday I did a TV interview via Skype, and so I had to actually rely on my parents. They came through and they were able to help with the babies. We loaded them in the car and they drove them around the block. So we do what we have to do as a family to commit to service. And it never means compromising loving on our littles. It just means having that extended support and recognition that this is truly, truly about all of our families in Northeast Ohio and finding ways for all of us to strike the balance that, really sets our best foot forward for Northeast Ohio.
Do you think maybe work-from-home moms had a little bit of a leg up when this all happened because you were already in that groove?
You say that, and I have to laugh a little bit because I talked to my sister-in-law, Sada, who is by profession a professional stay-at-home mother, and she does it much more eloquently than I do. But she's raised all three of her children, she's had part-time jobs outside of the house here and there. I've, of course, legislated while being a mother, and I've been a work-from-home mother. So I've done a little bit of everything while raising children, just like my mom did. I mean, my mom ran our business alongside our father. She still went on service calls. But predominantly, women do care for the children in the home today. And there are a lot of amazing dads who carry that opportunity. I won't call it a burden, but that opportunity to raise children right beside their wives. But we said the exact same thing yesterday. It was a call. My brother called and said, "Hey, great job on that interview. How'd you keep the kids out of the frame?" And I said, "Hey, I'm not a miracle worker. Mom came by and we loaded them up in the car and they went for a ride. And then they came back 10 minutes later." But I said to Sada, his wife, "Sada, not to be cavalier, but you and I were trained for this. We were mentally prepared and equipped. Work from home parents have a different level of endurance and grit than other people maybe recognize or realize. Every working parent of any sort, whether they're paid or unpaid, whether they're working at home or somewhere else, they have burdens and obstacles to carry, but certainly we have been conditioned in a unique way.
It was training time. Tell me about the nonprofit ministry that you are involved with.
I have been so incredibly blessed, and it's awesome to see just how God works through your life and just through your network and through your connections. And if you really listen to him, it's always very clear where he needs you and wants you. And you may not even know the relationships that were being built and meant for a time such as this. But I serve ICU Mobile, which is a nonprofit Christian ministry. I help them with their fund development and their donor relations and some of their marketing and social media presence aspects. And what I am responsible for doing is showing them to the rest of the world and helping to grow our donor base across the country, because we send help into the heart of abortion-minded communities all across the United States. We are the leading mobile medical pioneer in the country. So what we do is, because of the blessings and the abundance of God and our supporters, we go into communities where there are extremely high rates of abortion. We partner with local pregnancy resource centers, and sometimes we have enough of a demand where there isn't a pregnancy resource center that we still go. But we provide free pregnancy tests and also ultrasounds. And I am so blessed to always share this with people, but 4 out of 5 women that see their child via ultrasound on our unit choose life. And these are abortion-determined and abortion-vulnerable women in many cases and instances. And we also get the privilege of sharing with them the gospel of Jesus Christ. So oftentimes, women who are really struggling and not knowing exactly who they're seeking or who they are by design and by creation, they learn about their Creator for the very first time. And we have many women who choose to know Christ right on our mobile unit. So it is such a multifaceted but such a rewarding ministry. It's a blessing. And I never knew that I would be there, but they kind of found me. And it's interesting, the relationships all through time, and they all came together for the right time. And that has been such a blessing in my life, because it's such a part of who I am and what's on my heart and mind at all times. And that's helping women and helping them to know the child that they're carrying.
How do we spot these mobile units? What do they look like, so we can kind of say a prayer and maybe make a donation as we see them driving by or entering neighborhoods?
Yeah, absolutely. So visit icumobile.com, but know that they are neutrally branded, and that is intentional, because we don't want to scare people off who may really just not have the interest of carrying their child because they don't know their child yet. So we, by design, do not put it in anybody's face what our mission is, and we don't force faith on anybody. We meet people where they are in their faith walk, and we share with them as appropriately as we can. And then we show them their child if they have a child in tow. Sometimes women come and they aren't pregnant, but we're still able to speak with them, guide them, counsel them, and help them to get connected to the right resources in the community. There is a mobile unit in Ohio and Akron area, and also in Cuyahoga. And we have nearly 40 mobile units across the country as well.
Wow. So running for a primary this year had to be the most unique experience you've ever had in your political life. Tell me, how in the world, when you suddenly can't do gatherings of more than 10 people, how do you reach out to your constituents and rally up support and do a campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. So we, like everyone, had this really unique environment that we were operating in. Our professional space became different overnight, and in fact, shockingly so. We were driving from Summit County to Mahoning County, and we were on our way from knocking doors in one county, heading to the other end of the district. When we were listening to the news, and we were tuning into the governor's press conferences, as everyone had been. And it was at a press conference at 2 p.m. on our way to knock doors in Mahoning County at 3 p.m. with late Don Manning, who has since passed away. So life has just been turned upside down. And we heard that message from the governor, and we had just seen, the Secretary of State, Frank LaRose, on Fox News that morning saying how voting was going to happen. It was going to be safe and it was going to be on point. And then by 3 p.m., voting is off.
Right.
And then by midnight, voting was on. And then the next day, voting is on.
Right.
So we were in just as much shock and despair as every other every other voter in the state. And of course, it had so many implications for us directly with the campaign. What people don't usually think about as much, just because it's not directly impacting them, is the great amount of finances it takes to run a campaign across 5 counties. So we were quickly, scrambling, trying to figure out how do we continue to message to the voters for an extended period of what looked like could be 3 months at that time and ended up being about a month and a half.
Yeah.
But that becomes incredibly expensive. So we were reaching out to supporters and donors, and we were trying to be as innovative as humanly possible with the resources that we had on hand. And uniquely, federal races versus state races, there were additional limitations on us specifically of what finances we could use, because we had raised money for the general, where state level elected leaders and candidates could use money that was for the general. The FEC compliance we have says we can't use money until the general, even though they were saying the date. So there were so many crazy things happening. And then, of course, to be, near on lockdown, because we couldn't even go knock on a door in good conscience at that point, because we wouldn't want to offend anyone or put anyone in harm's way.
Right.
And so we just started becoming digital warriors, getting on social media, being present that way. All of the cards that we had, start reaching out to people, doing Zoom conference calls, Skype conference calls, interviews in any way that we could, and just completely changing the way that we communicated with our supporters and voters.
Well, congratulations. It worked. That watch party itself had to be unique. Tell us about that.
Oh, my goodness. You're not kidding. A lot of people did online watch parties, and I have had the experience of suffering defeat. And so I was not interested in doing a watch party, because I didn't think anyone should have to see my face, no matter what it was, win or lose. That felt like an intimate moment that I could keep to myself and my family, who sacrificed so much during that time. So we watched the results coming in, and, county by county, we are on the edge of our seat and so excited. And honestly, to see the love pour in across all 5 counties, we knew it was a God thing. That was not us alone. That was just such an outpouring of support. It felt like every battle we've ever been through, that was just a little reward for having the grit sustained.
Remind everyone who a congressperson who serves the Ohio 13th Congressional District, what counties you would serve and represent.
God permitting, people permitting, that I'm elected in November to serve Ohio's 13th Congressional District. I would be serving Ohioans in 5 counties, so portions of 5 counties. So portions of Stark County, Summit County, Trumbull County, Mahoning County, and also Portage. So it's a little bit of a stretch, but definitely Northeast Ohio, the Steel Valley, just hoping to really, really bolster jobs and make our supply chain strong again and grow our economy so that our families can afford to stay here and stay whole.
I love your phrase, a Republican voice for working people. That became your niche. How did that happen?
That happened naturally because I grew up in the trades. I grew up in a family that had a small business. In fact, we were raised in the apartment above our family's heating and plumbing business, and on the same farm that my grandma and grandpa started that business. So everything that we did was around serving the community through the trades and going on service calls. It was not unusual to learn about a family by being in their basement, sitting on a bucket flipped over while my dad worked on a service call, and just being alongside my mom in the office as she raised us. And it's so awesome how God works, because now I see the same things happening in my household, just the mentality that we can do all things and that God gives us the right amount of energy to accomplish it. Because I see myself working at my desk and managing the services for the nonprofit and running the campaign and raising my children. And I know I could never have done that if my mother hadn't set such a strong example of a working class mother, and if my father also hadn't set such a strong example of a working class father who also had, the desire and purpose written on his heart to serve.
I kind of see 4 legs on a stool of the platform you're running on, and I want to get into those, but I see we need to take a short break. So now's a good time for us all to wash our hands while we listen to these words, and you're listening to Our Community. And welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Christina Hagan. She is running for the Ohio 13th Congressional District, just won the primary. Congratulations again. That was pretty exciting. You're running on jobs, life, immigration, and health care. And we have about 13 minutes to cover a huge amount of stuff. So let's start with jobs, Christina. What's your idea as far as creating jobs here and attracting more people to this area to help it grow?
Yeah, so jobs are everything that I know. Growing up in a small business environment, again, our family business, our small business, employs nearly 2/3 of our family. My husband works in our small heating and plumbing business. My brothers do. My parents run the business alongside my adult brothers, who all have licenses in the trades as well. And it's just so incredibly important to me that we respect and value what it takes to run a small business, that we don't have a burdensome tax structure, that in all ways that we can, just like I did in the state legislature, I will work and aim to reduce burdensome regulations and to reduce taxes, both from the income perspective, but also understanding what the taxes do to our ability to hand our businesses on to next generation. I was really proud to be a part of repealing the death tax in Ohio, which was, in my mind, so obviously unconstitutional, and a double tax, a tax that was so ruthless and heartless to hit a family in their moment of mourning and take more of what their family intended to leave for them. I'm just so excited about the opportunity to really get into the federal legislature and work on reforming the federal government to create an environment where jobs can flourish. I know and understand that the president is the right person for the job to kickstart our economy. And I have been an adamant supporter of President Trump, and it's just so clear. The economy was so strong just a matter of weeks ago. We had the right mentality, the right leadership, and the right focus on bringing jobs home. And you mentioned immigration. There's so many pieces federally that go into how we can create a strong jobs environment, both reducing taxes and regulations, but also having partnerships with our local schools to have innovative ways that we get kids into real working environments. I've been a strong advocate for apprenticeships and the trades, because I know, we need both college educated students and we need trades educated students, and both are so incredibly important in Northeast Ohio. And I think that with the immigration piece as well, we need to be really cognizant of American jobs and opportunities for Americans into the future, and to make sure that we're not undercutting the American worker in any way with the policies that we have. And of course, the president's done a great job on reforming our trade system, and we have a greater benefit and advantage to Americans' jobs and opportunities than we ever have. But it's sustaining those types of America First policies that I think will really help a place like Northeast Ohio, and specifically the Steel Valley, where we've seen jobs just leaking out decade after decade. It will help to reverse some of the harmful trends that we've seen with globalism that have cost us our manufacturing base and our strength in Northeast Ohio.
You've been very supportive of our administration, and that can be polarizing for some. But Christina, your track record of working across the aisle and being able to get completely bipartisan support of many of your bills has been remarkable. How do you do that?
I think it's about seeing people for who they are and what they're fighting for. And I think when we do that, we stop seeing political orientation, we stop seeing flaws. A lot of people want to criticize the president for his lack of maybe being eloquent or articulate or polished. They want, by quote unquote, presidential. But to me, at the end of the day, his policies have strengthened our economy. And that's why I fought alongside him. And that's why I would fight alongside any Democrat that had those same values and those same determinations for our economy. And I had so many counterparts in the state legislature that were Democrats that cared about the workforce and cared about job opportunities And I can't tell you how many bills I worked on related to the oil and gas industry and opportunities that would create right here at home. And I had Democrats standing shoulder to shoulder with me that were in Northeast Ohio because they knew that those jobs would be integral to not only our energy independence, but the future of employment in the state and this country. And so it's exciting because I was always raised by a mom who said, when you're in office, whoever calls you, like, you're not answering the phone asking if they're a Democrat or Republican. You're going to find out what their problem is, and you're going to work to find solutions for them. And my mom grew up in a very Democrat community, and she just said, like I say, when I meet people and I see people, most people have the exact same values as I do. They are pro-life. They are pro-Second Amendment. They want to see jobs and opportunities right here at home. But what's happened is our parties have left us behind a long time ago. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people in leadership of the Democrat Party have become so radical that they're adopting late-term abortion mentality. They're adopting abortion on demand. They're saying that children in the womb have no value and that they are a choice and not a human being. And so they're denying science, and they're taking some extreme positions that really are contra everything that we believe here in Northeast Ohio. And it's heartbreaking because people like Congressman Tim Ryan, who really were reflective of our region when they started serving, have more or less lost their way and abandoned those values to try to hold on to the Democrat Party platform. And unfortunately, the Democrat Party platform left the people behind a long time ago. And the Republican Party platform that we once knew left the people behind as well. There was an establishment power that really robbed the values of all of our systems. And now I think, to President Trump's credit, he has seen hurting Americans and he's fought for them. And that's why we're seeing kind of a renewal in the Republican Party in my mind. And it was a blessing for me to work alongside Democrats who shared values that we had in our community. And we always enjoyed support from Democrats and independents in Ohio House District 50. And I just know that I serve all people, and it's a blessing.
Yeah. Is there a more marginalized group than a pro-life Democrat? Where do they go?
Oh, it's so sad. It's so sad. I mean, we saw Mayor Pete go on the attack and say that there is no place for a pro-life Democrat in their party any longer. When they adopted abortion, and it almost pains me to say adopted abortion because we should be adopting children and placing children. And instead of working on ways to take children's life painfully, we should be working on ways to make their lives easier and more whole and healthy. And where our foster care system is broken, we have solutions, and we can bring those to the table and get children placed efficiently and effectively and remove the bureaucracy from that process and the headaches that our social workers experience. In fact, I've worked really hard with an organization, a nonprofit called Connect Our Kids, and they actually use data and technology to improve the efficiency of which we place children. And so, like, the most advanced system in the United States is a program called 30 Days to Family. And that happens in about 5 states. So out of our entire country, about 5 states do a really innovative thing called 30 Days to Family. Well, Connect Our Kids does what 30 Days to Family does. As soon as they enter the data, it happens almost instantaneously. A family tree is built out, and social workers have all of the network that they need to reach out to that they're painstakingly trying to build over a 30-day period. And it's just, there's so many great opportunities ahead if we put policymakers in who are ready to fight for our vulnerable populations. But unfortunately, the Democrat platform has made it a campaign issue, and they want it to be polarizing.
Wow.
And they don't really want to wrap around women in this way. They want to pit women against their children, and it's heartbreaking.
Well, when you get down to someone saying out loud that a baby, even moments after birth, will be kept comfortable while the parents and the doctor decide what to do with, and I hate to even use the pronoun it, rather than with her or him. How did we get to this point? Oh, very disturbing. How did we get here?
We are in the most medically advanced country in the entire world. We have more resources than any person on the planet.
Yeah.
And to hear that come out of our government leaderships mouth. It's so painful and it's so callous and it's disturbing. I mean, that's not even a debate about abortion. That's a debate about infanticide.
Yes.
That's a debate about whether a vulnerable child or our vulnerable elderly have rights to live, and they're at the hand and justice of another human being instead of having their own individual DNA be counted as worth fighting for. We are in a seriously divided time on this issue, and we need people who are willing to speak to it with compassion and with a heart of understanding, but also that are unwilling to move on science, basic science of our humanity and our biology.
That takes us to healthcare. That's another one of the parts that you are running on. Tell us where you stand on it.
So I think we are in a current place where our eyes have been opened in a way they've never been opened before, just about the magnitude of our healthcare system, what's needed, what's been made readily available. We all experienced the scare, and I think all of us, our eyes were glued to the TV over the last 2 months, just not knowing what would be next, not knowing how drastic this would be, not knowing what modeling worked. I do appreciate all of the health professionals that have been in the equation, providing insight and data, whether that data is perfect or flawed or lagging, that is a tough job. And at the end of the day, I look at it and I'm thankful that our federal government was able to have the needs met for the ventilators that were needed, and they were able to get production of those ventilators. It's good to know that those safety nets exist if and when necessary. But I think it puts us in a different spot on the conversation about healthcare, and it's not Democrats who get sick, and it's not Republicans who get sick. It's not young, it's not old. Everybody gets sick, and we need to have a greater understanding of how we react to these types of situations and where we put our emphasis on this. So I would like to see both on this and also on the coronavirus as a whole, and just China's role in the coronavirus and the Communist Party. I would like to have a larger conversation about the funding that the United States puts into virology labs out, overseas and in other places. We need to have, I think, a really America First driven mentality on how we make sure that we serve Americans first and how we put our emphasis on Americans' needs first. And there's a reason that we have a safety net in this country. It is for the vulnerable, and I don't think there's a single American that doesn't believe in having a safety net for a vulnerable. But unfortunately, when our healthcare systems are broken, and we try to do more than is really financially possible, we rob the people who need that care the most. So I think making our healthcare systems whole and really aiming to have a bipartisan task force that evaluates all of these tough questions across the aisle from one another, because at the end of the day, we have to start working together like Americans instead of pretending like we're on some type of Jerry Springer show. We've got to get things done. People expect it.
Christine, oh man, that is a great place to stop. How can people find out more about you? I'm sure you're still fundraising. You might even be gearing up to get some volunteers to help with the campaign as November approaches. Who knows what things are going to look like then? How can people find out more?
Yes, you can go to my website, which is pagan2020.com, and you can learn more about us, sign up to volunteer. If you feel called, making a donation would be immensely helpful. We are up against a longtime incumbent, so we need to garner the resources necessary to change the culture of this district. So reach out to us there. Follow us on Twitter. My Twitter handle is rephagan. Look for us on other social media outlets like Facebook and Instagram. But you will get a mix of my real life and the campaign, so you will get to know me as a human being.
Christina Hagan, thanks for all you do in our community.
Thank you, Susie.